Hi, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream we build Django apps. On this particular stream, I'm going to be working with pyupgrade and working on DJ Stripe to integrate Stripe into my Django app. So if that sounds interesting to you, I hope you'll stick around. I do want to share a bunch of information before we get started. So if you like the content that I'm producing, please like, comment, subscribe, whatever, on YouTube or Twitch, wherever you're at. That would be really appreciated. There's tons of ways to get in touch with me. They're kind of listed above and around, and you can find them. If you want to support me financially, that'd be awesome. I'm on patreon.com as MB Lehman. And I want to thank my patrons of Rupert, Abdulaziz, Patrick, Eric, and Philip. Thank you so much for your help and the ways that you support me. So let's get into it. I have two overarching goals tonight. One is to add a tool that I actually used today at work, which is an amazing tool that I encountered. I think I had encountered it briefly in the Python community, but I had never really put a lot of thought into it. But it was really cool. It was a good experience, and I'd like to try and put it into my app. The tool is called pyupgrade. And the idea behind it is to change your code to upgrade to newer versions of Python style. So, for example, if you had old Python 2 code and you were using format strings and you wanted to switch to F strings, which are awesome, you could do that. And so pyupgrade has a bunch of these kind of common changes to help keep your styling up to date. And that's the first thing that I want to add. After that, we will turn our attention to DJ Stripe. So I have my SaaS product that we're building as a homeschool app, and it is going to be a subscription-based service. But right now, it has all the functionality, but none of the subscription part. So people can sign up, but I'm not actually, because I'm in this window of time where you can sign up for a free account, I'm not actually checking anybody against any of that right now. But I would like to make it a paid service, and so I need to integrate some kind of payment gateway. So I'm going to use Stripe, I think, and we're going to go through that together. So that's what what's going on. You're free to ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development if you're here on the stream live. If you're coming at YouTube, you can check me out. I stream on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern time in the United States, and and that's where this content's coming to you from. All right, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to do is get to pyupgrade, as I mentioned. So let's look at that project. And it's by Anthony Sotili, who's an awesome developer who's really involved in the Python ecosystem. He does pre-commit, he works on PyTest and all these other tools. So Anthony's a sharp guy, and he's made his life easier and then made our lives easier by making all of these tools that help out. So pyupgrade, as I mentioned, is a tool that will scan your code and look for things that it can't upgrade. So what I want to do is add in a pre-commit hook. So I am using pre-commit. Pre-commit is a tool that will, as it sounds, check some stuff as before any commits are made to a repository. And so I'm going to take his hook that he's got here. Is that the latest one, or is that an old example? It's a good question. Looks like the latest. So he must have some. I bet he's got code that even keeps that up to date. That's the kind of guy that he is. So what we're going to do is come over to the code, which is not over there. I'm sorry, I'm a little disheveled starting the stream today. But here's my pre-commit configuration file. And I'm going to copy in exactly what he had on his example. And I'm going to leave it as the first thing because it's going to be modifying code. And it just feels like right to have it kind of first in sequence. And then all these other ones, because this one is modifying stuff and some of these other ones are checking. So you don't want to check your code and then modify, and then the pre-commit hooks might get messed up. So I'm going to put it in that order and leave it there and leave it at version 210 like he's got. The other thing we're going to do that maybe he documents on his site, let's find out. Maybe not. He has some flags that go into this tool, and one of them, it basically specifies which version of Python you want to target. And so my application is using, what is it using? That's a good question. I think it's using 3.9. So we want to set a certain flag so that it will target 3.9 features. So as Python is evolving and making these nice refinements, he's got different flags that target different versions. So you can get more changes. Like, for instance, there's a version 3 flag, but then there's also a version 3.6 flag. And one of the big things that happened in that time frame between just version 3's release and version 3.6 is format strings came out. So if you don't specify version 3.6 as your target, it can't apply those fixes because that feature might not be there. So we want to make some modifications in a couple of places, actually. Before we add it to pre-commit, let's also make sure that I have this as just a tool that I can generally run and access. So I'm going to add it to my requirements dev file. And I'm going to include it alphabetically, and it's called pyupgrade, so I guess that would put it down here. And I'm going to say 2.1.0 seemed to be the version that he had listed. So let's do that, and then let's install that package. So we're going through our package list here from the requirements files that I specified, and eventually it's going to get to pyupgrade. There it is. And it says, okay, I need that. And there's some other things that I hadn't updated in my local virtual environment, so that's what you're seeing there. And once it's done, we'll have pyupgrade available. It's taking its time. There's a lot of packages. Okay. So I'm going to actually deactivate my virtual environment and then reactivate it. That's a quirk that I've had from Z shell. Like if I don't do that, then the executable for some reason is not visible. I can probably resource my shell and it would be fine. Excuse me. But I don't want to go that route. So now pyupgrade should be available. Pyupgrade, if I can type it. And if we look at the help, we can see some of the arguments here. So we've got Pi 3, Pi 3.6, Pi 3.7 plus. I thought he had more on his on this over here. Pi 3, whoops, that's a wrong window. Pi 3.8. There is a Pi 3.8. Maybe he hasn't released it yet. Is there a Pi 3.9? There's a Pi 3.9. Maybe he hasn't documented that. Curious. Let's actually go to PyPI and make sure that I have the right version, because I might have installed the wrong one. In fact, I think I did. Now that I think it's 2.10. I think I selected 2.1. Yeah, that's my problem. Okay, whoops, wrong package. So I set 2.1 by accident. So we're going to come back in here and we're going to go back to that requirements file and fix it up to be 2.10. That was tricky. All right. So let's try the same load command. Apologies for the delay there. That's annoying. We have to sit through this again. But it doesn't take too long. So I think pyupgrade works with an abstract syntax tree. But I don't officially know that. So I thought one of the packages was a tokenize or something like that. I'm not sure if Anthony might actually be the author of that one for all I know. But the nice part is like it really, from what I saw today, and I used this at work today, 400,000 lines of code and ran it on that, and it made very, what I could assess, safe looking changes to my system. So it seems like a really solid tool. All right, let's try it again. Pyupgrade, and this time I don't need to source it again because I should have, I'm in a different shell. All right, well, deactivate and then source. Okay, pyupgrade. All right, there we go. He's even got 3.10 plus in there, which is interesting because 3.10, to my knowledge, is not out yet. Let's try it though. So what I want to do is run. I'm going to run with the pre-commit flag, and I really installed this here just so you could see all the flag options. I probably didn't really need it because I'm mostly going to use it as with pre-commit. So I can say pre-commit run, and then I can give it the name of the plugin that I want to run. So its ID is pyupgrade, so we can say pyupgrade. And then we can use the -a flag to give it all files. So that's going to run through and check out every file. And it failed because it rewrote this thing. So what did I do here? All right, so it looks like my code is actually pretty up to date, which is nice. So there's not a lot to change here. My diff at work was much, much bigger than this. And what it's doing in this scenario is you can see it's replacing the set call with a set literal syntax. So it's wrapping it in curly braces to do that. And that seems to be the whole change, which is okay, that's nice. So there's actually not too much to do. But the nice part about this is now if I make, let's say I used a format string or something like that, an older style. So I use a string with a dot format call, and then my pre-commit plugin is going to run. And if it detects that hey, that's a format string, this could be an F string, it will reformat that format for me, which is really nice. So let's commit this. So now that's running. Now you can see it passed. And then we'll say add pyupgrade as a pre-commit hook. Okay, that changes down. Now that was the easy one for the night, kind of a warm up to get us going. The next one is going to be much broader. In fact, I don't actually know where this will end. I don't know how far we'll get tonight. It might be as much as getting this package installed and then configuring it and then talking about it. I really don't know. Excuse me. So what am I after? I was thinking about payment gateways. How can I pay for this? Or how can people pay me, for the service that I'm trying to build? And there are a lot of vendors out there. There's, off the top of my head, there's Braintree is a common one. I think it's owned by PayPal at this point. There is Stripe. There is one called Paddle. And there are many. And they all have their strengths and weaknesses. Stripe at this point is kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the payment gateway space. So if you're building a software as a service application, Stripe is going to be a really common answer. The reason is Stripe is pretty awesome. They do a ton of stuff, and they do it well. And because they're so big, it means that there are more people that use it. And because there are more people that use it, it means that there's likely more ecosystem support for it. In fact, there is such support, and there is a Django package called DJ Stripe. So this is the tool that I'm interested in adding to my project, because as I was considering different payment vendors, I was really looking at between two. I was looking between Stripe, because they're so big, and this other one called Paddle. And I'll give a shout out to Paddle because it's pretty cool. I think I'm opting not to go with it, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It's a different. It was really a choice about. I'm trying to minimize some of my technical changes and some of the risk areas that I'm going in. So I'm going with technologies that I already have experience with. But Paddle's pretty cool, and from what I can tell about Paddle, if you choose to use them, is that they seem to handle a lot more of the tax stuff. They're kind of a more complete solution in what they'll handle for you. And the trade-off with that is that they take a higher commission or higher cut of every charge that's made. And so that's kind of where it lands. Like, if what do you want to get out of it? So I'm opting not to go with Paddle and instead going with Stripe. And part of that is because I know that this particular package, DJ Stripe, exists. And all right, let's talk about what is DJ Stripe then. DJ Stripe is an integration with Django and Stripe. As you can see, Django plus Stripe made easy. That's a good simple tagline. But what I find interesting about this is DJ Stripe seems to replicate a lot of Stripe's data to your local database. And then it will try to keep that data in synchronization using the webhook system. So Stripe has the ability. Stripe as your payment gateway. What they're really all about. I guess I have not even explained that. So if you're brand new to payment stuff, Stripe as a vendor will be the interface that a customer can use to actually make charges with their credit card. And that's important because if you were to try to do that on your own, being compliant with the laws that are required is actually really, really hard. It's a really complicated process. And so if you can avoid having to do that yourself, that's really great, which is why these payment gateways is what they're called. That's why they exist. So Stripe is really good about doing all of that. And so the way that you interact with Stripe is through a couple different channels. You either use some JavaScript that they provide. There are Python APIs that you can use. There's support in all sorts of different kinds of languages. And they will allow you to send information so you can make requests, make new objects, and over their REST APIs and all that kind of stuff. They can also call back to you using webhooks. So in a Stripe dashboard, you can configure your account and say, I want you to send all of the information from any of my transactions on my account to this particular URL. And so that information can be received by your website, and then you can process it however you want. The nice part about DJ Stripe is that includes some of the webhook stuff by default and will do a lot of that work on its own. So they have created a lot of the Stripe models in Django so that you can synchronize your data with Stripe in your local Django database. And I think that's really, really nice because it means that when I need to interact with a customer subscription, for example, I can do that through a Django model in my code. I don't have to use their API directly and get this object-like thing and then mess with that. No. All that is handled for me by DJ Stripe, and I can use the ORM and get all the benefits out of that. So that is a large part of why I'm planning to use DJ Stripe for my project, is because a ton of this stuff is configured by them. In fact, as you can see, they have support from Stripe, the company themselves. So this is not a project, to my knowledge, that's actually maintained by any Stripe employees, but Stripe sees enough value in this particular project that they're supporting them at a financial level, which is pretty awesome. And I guess it kind of is a signal that this code will be get some help to be maintained, which is great. Okay, so that's my pitch for why I'm using DJ Stripe, and now it comes down to actually adding it and going through and configuring it, and then after that, that's when it gets a little murky for me. Is that this is my first experience using DJ Stripe. I've used Stripe in the past, but not in a Django app in this way. It's been more at the direct API layer using their Python package. So this is slightly different, and I have to think about the modeling for this. So we're going to explore this together. We're going to then probably plan out what is it that I'm actually trying to accomplish. I don't know how much of this will just be like reading documentation and stuff, so we'll see how much there is to do. Let's get into it. So we've got our introduction, and this is telling you all the features that are there. That's all well and good. I think we're more interested in getting right to the installation bit of this. So the first thing we need to do is install the DJ Stripe package, and I want to see what version they're on because I like to pin my versions. So DJ Stripe is on 2.4.3. So that's what we need to go get. So we're going to go to the requirements, include file, and we're going to go to this section right here and say, how would I sort this with alphabetically? Like does a dash come alphabetically before or after a letter? I don't know. I'm going to put it after. So we're going to say DJ stripe, and then we're going to say 243. Oops, not 2. That'll be the second package version mistake in a day. Let's not do that. So we've got 243 listed in the requirements file. And now we can do pip compile and build a new version of our requirements file. And what pip compile is doing, if you haven't seen it used before, is it's actually building up the full set of packages that are needed. And it's pinning down all of those versions, and what it's going to write to the requirements file is every package that's needed. It's called the transitive closure if you're looking for a fancy name. It's just a full dependency graph. And it spits out all that information here, but it's also put it into the actual requirements file. So you can see DJ stripe is added to this, and then you can see the areas, the things that it's updating some comments. Apparently it depends on JSON field, so that's going to be a new requirement, and it depends on a version of the Stripe API, which is not surprising. But this tells me, because I'm using pip compile, that I did not install Stripe myself. It's saying, hey, you actually came from DJ stripe. So that's the benefit of using pip compile. So now we will reinstall all the packages, and it's going to go get DJ stripe and install it so that we can start working with it. Almost done. All right, cool. So we can return back to the documentation. I think that was our version of the install step. So there says pip install this, and that's fine if you're experimenting. But my app is more locked down than that, and is using more tools. So that's why there's more involved. The second piece we need to do is add DJ stripe to the list of installed applications. So we can go do that next, and that's going to be in my settings file. So we'll come down to installed apps, and then I'm listing, the way I normally list this is let the Django apps be first, and then all of the third-party apps, and then all of my first-party apps in my actual application. And then so we can put DJ stripe right in this list of third-party stuff. And I think that's that bit. Finally, we need to actually include this part down here. And this is the set of URLs that will be used so that you can actually configure a webhook. So DJ stripe will be listening on this webhook URL, and then we'll go into the Stripe dashboard. I don't actually know that I'm going to get into Stripe itself because it's related to money, and I don't know, there's not that much in there that y'all need to see. There's not like anything super important to hide in there, but I don't want to slip up and have to rotate keys and stuff, so I don't think we actually need to get in at that level. We can kind of just camp out in the code, and then you can go create a Stripe account for yourself if you want. Got a frog in my throat tonight for some reason. Okay, next we need to go to the project URLs. That's where this stuff was supposed to go, and I'm going to just steal this line. It's well formatted. It's exactly what I need. So let's put it in here. Where should it go? I guess it looks like I'm putting, in this scenario, I'm putting the third-party stuff at the bottom. Don't think it really matters, but I'll continue that as well. And I'll sort it to put it like that. Okay. So now we've got DJ Stripe URLs included. We have the package installed. Let's try running the tests and see. I don't actually know if the system will blow up if you don't have the right settings. Maybe it will. Yeah, that's looking like that case. Let's see if I can kill that. Yep. So it needs some settings, apparently, before it's going to be happy. I'm surprised it's complaining about the foreign key to field setting. That's interesting. I don't know what that's all about. Yeah. Hey, CodeAlite, welcome back. Thank you for joining in tonight. Gonna figure out some settings and then get going with some stuff. So this is where, like, this is fresh territory for me, all. I don't actually know exactly what's next, so we're going to configure stuff and fill in the blanks and see how it goes and figure out what I need to do. So there's some additional syncing, there's some migration, that maybe it's missing some migration. I don't really know why it's failing so far. I'm gonna just put in these next 4 settings and see if that will make it happy. I hope so. I hope this is not, that I'm not missing anything else. So this is kind of a first run experience for someone who has never used this package before. So let's come up and find where this would go. I'm gonna put the settings for it here. Call it DJ Stripe. And what do we need? We need the Stripe Live secret key. And we'll say is equal to an empty string for the moment. And the test key. And if you've never, I'll talk about these different keys in a minute, because I do know a bit about this stuff that I can speak to. I don't know about these settings necessarily, but I do know what they're kind of looking for. Okay, so we've got these 4 settings that are in the configuration, but what are these? The way Stripe works is when you go and get it like API keys and stuff, what your server is going to use to actually make API calls, in other words, interact with real money in real customers, is it wants to use this live secret key, which I don't have set to anything yet. And if you are using a test mode, then it will try and use a test key. So the Stripe gives you the ability to create 2 different kinds of keys. One that is safe, that you can use like test credit cards and not charge anybody real things or be charged yourself. That's what the test key is for. And then the live key, of course, is the inverse of that, when you do actually want to charge real money, create real accounts, real customers, and all of that. And the Boolean that's here, which actually I don't want to be listed as like that, is probably what controls which of those 2 keys it picks from, would be my guess. This webhook secret, I'm not super well informed about the Stripe webhooks yet, because it's been a long time since I've used them, but I'm pretty sure what happens is there's a certain amount of shared, it's like a shared token that as an authenticity check, so that when Stripe sends data to your webhook, it wants to be able to prove that, hey, this is actually coming from Stripe, not from some phony account out there that's trying to pump data into your system. So by having a shared token, something that you get from Stripe in their calls, something that they say, hey, we're going to send this to you, you need to go put this in your server. That's probably what goes here in the secret, and that will allow the DJ Stripe webhook to verify the integrity of that. So I'm going to save those as just the empty things for now and see if that fixes this thing. This is weird to me, DJ foreign key to field. I'm not sure why that's coming up that way. So we're going to run this again and see if setting those 4 things, no, it's the same problem. That's strange. So I don't know what this is. So we're going to have to go dig deeper to see why this is required, why it's I don't know, why there's not a sane default. I would expect that to be a default, but does not seem to be the case. So let's come down to settings. Maybe it could just be that their contributing guide is out of date, because clearly, like, look here it is right here. And it was introduced in a recent version. You're required to set it. Okay, well, that's strange. This is me reading this for the first time, y'all, so I don't really know what's up here. I'm just kind of like getting it myself. So it says it's new to this version 2.4.0. Okay, that's cool. And it could just be that I'm kind of onboarding onto DJ Stripe at an awkward time, because it sounds like in 3.0 it will have a default, and they recommend setting it. So I think I probably should open up a PR to say, hey, you need this. In fact, can we do that quickly? I don't know. Let me see if that one setting will set it correctly. And then maybe we can open up a code PR here live and just try it out. So the setting is called what? DJ Stripe foreign key to field. And they say it needs to be equal to ID. Okay. I don't know any different, so that sounds fine to me. Let's see if that will fix the tests, or if there's some other setting we're missing. Well, this is funky. My tests do not take this long to run, so something is happening. All right, let's kill that for a minute. What I'm going to do, so the easiest way to like confirm if it's DJ Stripe, which I suspect it is to come back up to installed settings, or installed apps, excuse me, and comment out DJ Stripe. And that will take DJ Stripe out of the equation, right? So let's try running the test suite again. And yeah. Well, now something else is failing. What's going on here? What is that? DJ Stripe models base. Huh? Oh, it could be because I killed my database last time. And maybe it's trying to cache the database. I don't know. Something weird is going on. So let's let this run all the way through. Create. This shouldn't be happening. So I guess there's some road speed bumps, I suppose, in this process. Because I disabled that, right? Like, there's no import to DJ Stripe anywhere. It is an installed package now, but it's not in the installed apps. And so I'm really confused as to how the model that was there can be complaining. Model class. It's like somehow it's registering itself even though it shouldn't be able to. That's pretty strange. So this is not a good, this does not instill confidence in me that in this package. It could be a great package that tons of people depend upon, but yeah, you can see here, like anything that's actually using the client for whatever reason. Oh, you know what it is? I got it. I forgot there's another area where I added this. Project URLs. I forgot I put it in here too. So it was trying to import something. I was super confused about why that was going. This should run really fast now, if I did it right. Okay, that makes me feel way better. It still doesn't explain what the heck DJ Stripe was doing when it was getting going. So that doesn't breed confidence. But that's something else we can get into. What can we try here? So this is running PyTest with some coverage stuff, which we don't really need. Oh, I guess it has migrations enabled. I wonder how many migrations are in DJ Stripe. There might be a lot. That might be why it's running so slowly. Because when I'm running my test normally, like if I'm in my actual code over here, right, and I've got a test file up, and let's say that I'm over on here, and I want to run this individual test. You notice I only pass in PyTest. I don't pass in any extra parameters. My make coverage command, though, is running with the -- migrations flag, which is running migrations. Let's look at DJ Stripe and see how many migrations they have. Because it could just be that there are tons of migrations in here. No. Well, that's curious. So there's not a ton of migrations. So I don't know what's getting hung up on. Okay. Well, let's come back to the settings. And let's add DJ Stripe back in. And this time I'm going to run PyTest. And I'm not going to use the migrations flag. But I will ask it to be in verbose mode. I think that's how you do it. It's either that or -v2 or something. Okay, so it's running just fine. Okay, well, that's good. That wasn't super slow or anything. Let's try adding the -migrations flag in there and see if that's where it's going to hang. This is kind of weird. Okay, there it went. So maybe I just didn't wait long enough last time? That's possible. It's kind of rough that those migrations, like look at what my test run just went to. That's insane. It just went to 37 seconds when it was at. That's a good question. I think the answer is probably yes, Codalite, but I'm not running their tests, so I would be shocked if they don't have any tests. Maybe they don't. Well, let's see. Maybe it's in their root. No, here they are. There's plenty of tests, it looks like. But I'm not running any of these in my test suite, so that's not what we're seeing here. So something in their migration process, and it could just be that they have a ton of models. As I said, it's trying to mirror a lot of the models that are in Stripe. So if we come in here, I bet if we go in and look at this first initial migration, it looks like they might even try and squash these periodically. I bet this thing is gigantic. Yeah, it's 5,000 lines of model changes or migration changes. All right, I am almost positive that that is where all of that effort is coming from. It's just gotta make a lot of models. That's rough, but I can live with that. That's fine. It's if my test suite to get a full test run takes longer, but I had to do no work to set up payment stuff, then that's a worthwhile trade-off. It at least explains things. All right. Now that we know that it takes a long time, let's see if we can add this back. So now this is like minimal configuration. I'll run make coverage again, and I'm going to let that run. So it clearly collects pretty quickly, and it's 41, the 41st minute here locally. But I guess everywhere it's the 41st minute, unless you're on a half-hour time zone. I don't know. Time zones are weird. But while we're doing that, let's see if we can make a documentation change really quickly. So this is the configuration guide, right? Or the installation guide. Do they have it? No, they don't. So let me see. All right, that ran. And let's take this line and make a quick PR. And edit this. So I'm going to come down to this section and add it here. Get rid of the find. And then we'll say mention required setting in installation guide. Forget you, GitHub. I don't care how long that is. So we installed this for the first time, and the setup failed because this thing was missing when looking at the settings, or what they didn't call it settings, what did they call it? Well, I guess they did. Settings. Yeah, okay. I discovered that this setting is actually required to work, to operate. The docs recommend the value of ID. So that's what I'm listing. Okay. We're doing our darndest to improve open source here. So all I added was the single line. I don't actually know if I'm following their contributor guidelines. So, but I haven't actually created a pull request yet. So here's our one-line change. And we'll create the pull request. Let's see what their contributing guidelines say. Let's make sure we're not screwing stuff up. Report for bugs. I don't really want to check their documentation. I don't think what I did is broken. Okay. This feels good to me. I feel like I've done enough due diligence to say that I'm not being crazy here. And we'll create a pull request. And they can take that or not. It's on them. But I did my good deed by adding that. Okay, cool. We can close these things out. It looks like, yep, test still passed, so that's all good. We're ready, I think, to move on. To move on to what I actually need this to do. So even though I got the configuration going, that's barely a start. If you recall, this is not, well, I definitely don't want to just leave empty strings in those settings. But my tool for using that is Django Environ. So I've got my environment up here, and we need to set some values. So I need to create, well, I think in order to make these required, we can just ask for them or basically use them directly. So this is one thing I'm not really crazy about with Django environment here. You can put in what is a setting here, right? But I think the way this works is that you have to include a default if you do this. So what I really want to do is declare that I'm going to need one of these settings and list its type, but I don't want a default because I want to force an answer on my configuration, because I don't want production to like be missing keys. So that's, and maybe there's a way, maybe I can do a single element tuple. Let's go look really quickly. Because you can see here, there's a default value, is the second one, but that's not what I want. And then they tell you like, well, raises an improperly configured, but that's like too late, right? Or it doesn't really declare intent, in my opinion. So it would be nice if I could just list it. It may not be a feature that's here, which is okay. I can live with it, but just musing. Boolean. Give all these certain types. Most of the different like converters and things. No, all right, too bad. Oh well. So let's come down to the DJ Stripe area. And now we're going to replace it. So I'm going to say environment, Stripe, live secret key. I'm going to name them the same thing. And I'll just do that in all 4 spots for a minute. Even though I'm going to change it. So we're going to switch it to test. So that's that setting. And then we want to say DJ Stripe webhook secret. And we also want live mode, although live mode is one that I can set. So let's do that. So let's go up to the top and say Stripe live mode. And I want that to be a Boolean. And okay, so here's an important consideration for the way that I have been writing settings. I am writing my settings so that these environment settings will default to do the correct thing for production. That's critical in my chosen method. That by taking that stance, what I effectively get is a minimal amount of configuration on my production environment, and then everybody else, every other environment that I might have in the future has to opt into changing the behavior. So that I have to deliberately diverge from the way that my live website runs if I want it to operate differently. It involves a little bit more configuration for doing local development, but it means that there are fewer things to do on my production site, which is a good thing. I called it out because I've got Stripe live mode here, but that means now that I need to go to my test, the sample environment file that I have, which is env example, and make sure that I include it here. And I might have to go in and tweak some stuff in a second to add some other values. And I'm going to have to hide my screen, I think, at that point, because I've got keys and things in my actual environment file. So we're going to come down to the bottom here and say Stripe live mode, and I definitely don't want this to be live mode right now. So I'm going to say off, which in Django environment will interpret as a false value. So it'll override this Stripe live mode here. The other thing that we want is we need, so if I run the test suite right now, and I'm not going to use the dash migrations because that's slow, but if I let this run, it should, well, maybe it's not going to. Maybe nothing used it? How can that be? That doesn't seem right. Did I not save? I didn't save the file. Okay, try that again. This should have blown up on me, which I fully expect it to. Yeah, there we go. So this is much more in line with what I expected. So I declared in that settings section that we need those keys, those new variables, right? The live secret key, the live test key, and the DJ Stripe webhook secret. But we don't have those provided yet. So I need to come down here and make sure that they exist. So we're going to add the Stripe, and I can leave this to, well, can I leave it? Yeah, it just cares that there's something there. So it's going to be empty, and that's probably fine. We'll say is equal to nothing, and then we'll change live to test, and that should create those two values. And we also need DJ Stripe, and I keep this stuff alphabetically, even though this separates them, but it makes them easier for me to find in the future if I stick with this pattern. I've tried like having like a mixed mode where you try and group stuff logically together, and then you can do that, but then you have to do comments like I've actually done with my settings. So in the actual environment configuration, I just keep them all separated and alphabetical. All right, if I run this though, I'm still going to fail because this is just my example file. This is like if my computer crashes tomorrow and I can't recover my disk, I need to be able to know what settings I have. That's why I keep this file up to date, so I can know which values to fill in if I want to do this. So what I'm going to do here is come to this area and turn on my super secret thing, and I'm going to make sure that, yeah, y'all can't actually see my content right now. This will just be for a moment while I take those new settings that we just added and put them in my actual environment file. So if you'll give me just a second, I'll be right back with you. And all I'm doing right now is taking those exact same things that you just saw and literally copying them to my other file. And I have to do this because, because I don't want to share my keys. Sorry. I think you can understand. So that's what I did. Now if we go over here and run PyTest again, this should hopefully work because all of those values, even though they're empty, they exist in the environment. So Django environment doesn't care. DJ Stripe might care if I actually had some tests that checked it because they're going to be empty, but I'm not testing anything with DJ Stripe right now. So we've got that going, and now what? Now I probably need, there's probably a couple more places that needs to go. I bet CI is going to break, so we need to go to the GitHub file, and I've got tests in here, and coming down to the bottom. And these, so I'm almost positive this is going to break if I don't include these. So we need to include, and I don't want it to be live mode of off. So let's do all of that. We'll do Stripe live mode is set to a value of off. Put that for both of them. And then I don't know that we need a real thing here, but we'll keep going. So we need secret key and we've got a couple keys there. So let's copy those as well. And then I guess I need one more for DJ Stripe webhook secret. And let's put that alphabetically. All right, you probably didn't care about all this configuration stuff. This is sort of the fiddly bits that come along with projects sometimes. But hey, it's sometimes good to see. And I wish maybe GitHub is a way to make an environment that applies to all the commands. I'd love to just be able to set this once and forget it. So what do we have? We've got our example configuration. We have updated CI to use those fake values. So that shouldn't blow up. We set a default for the live mode so that production will be true. We added DJ Stripe. We added the new settings. We created a PR for the setting that was required that the configuration didn't mention. We set up the webhook. Now, I should call out that this is done actually, there's some stuff to do on the Stripe side. So we have set up the ability for my application to have a webhook that can be called, but that's not applied yet. And we did some stuff to actually install DJ Stripe. All right, neat. The other thing to do to finish this off is to actually run the migrate command. So let's run that now. And so that should actually apply DJ Stripe. Whoops. Let's run it from where I actually have the virtual environment activated. So that will actually create all of those tables, I would suspect. All right, well. So I'm getting some warning checks here that are preventing my migrations from running. There's also like all this other stuff. Well, we haven't actually, these are good warnings to resolve now because I think I'm already on 3.1. It's my version of Django, I'm pretty sure. So we're on Django 3.1 and the warning over here says DJ Stripe use native JSON field. Oh, that'd be good. So, okay. So that if you were paying attention a while ago, you saw that my requirements file had a package called JSON field. And there was a time where Django did not include a JSON field by default. So if it was available for Postgres, which is the database they happen to be using, but it wasn't available for SQLite or MySQL or some of these other things. But 3.1 added kind of support for all of Django's supported databases. Once it did that, the third-party package that was doing something similar was no longer needed. So what they're hinting at here is you can use this, and in this context, this is a value I want to use. So let's make sure we go back in the settings, see if we see that we can understand that. Here it is. Okay. So we'll go set this to true to continue to fill in values. And I guess this is a good time to say, let's look at the actual list of settings, shall we? Because I haven't done that, so I kind of assumed that this was the minimal right thing, but I think we've seen now a couple of examples where the settings aren't quite what you would think, so maybe there are other things we should set. All right. I know that we don't actually have to set the Stripe API version. This is used kind of internally, and they even say, hey, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. So as DJ Stripe upgrades, they upgrade how they communicate to Stripe. And so they will set their version. So I actually don't even know why that setting exists. Maybe it's a development feature. I'm not really sure. We just set the DJ Stripe foreign key field. Item potency key callback. Wow. All right, I think I can leave this to the default. I don't know why you'd set this. By default, plans are not prorated. Okay, I don't think I plan on supporting proration. Proration is like, what if somebody cancels mid-month? Are they going to get a partial refund? I'm not going to mess with that right now. If it came up with a customer, I'd probably just say, fine, I'll refund you the whole amount, because it wouldn't be worth the hassle. Let's see. DJ Stripe subscription required. Oh, deprecated. I'm going to ignore it. Customer key. All right, leave. That looks like something we can leave. Our subscriber model. If the auth user model doesn't represent the object your application's subscription holder. Well, that's interesting. I might actually want to mess with this one, because one of the pieces of advice that I listened to a podcast. It's from the folks that do Honey Badger. What's Honey Badger podcast? I'm drawing a blank on the name of their podcast. Founder Quest. So Honey Badger, if you have never heard of it, it's more popular in the Ruby world, I believe, but it is. It's like Rollbar. So I've used Rollbar. I've shown it on this stream. It's like Sentry. If you've used that, they're similar. They capture error information and report it, and they have a podcast, which I'm now struggling to find, which is over here. And this is basically, it's a small team. And there are like 3 founders, and they talk about building software as a service products. And one of the episodes that they had, they talked about disconnecting your billing from individual users. So in their case, they wanted like support teams and stuff, and it was a big project to make that make that disconnected. And so as I'm looking at this, it seems like I may want to actually do this, because the way that I have connected my application is I plan on having users manage their subscription and all that stuff through an account. So there's a user and then there's account, and I'm kind of keeping the user for authentication purposes, but I've got an account model to actually track the status of whether they're in a trial, whether they're active, and so on and so forth. So this setting is actually looking pretty like something I want to change, because I don't want to connect it to users based on the advice from that other podcast. So we actually might need to set this and modify the thing here to be something meaningful. So what is that gonna have to do? Yeah, that is a good catch. You're right. I agree. I was glad I'm like reading this before I commit this code and deploy it. No, that would have been a mess to go back and clean up. It's one of those things that you probably can't change super easily. So it must have an email field. All right, that's not a problem. And settings auth user model is a string, usually, I think, of the app label. So let's go back to the settings file. Let's get that open. And we'll say DJ Stripe subscriber model. Come on, subscriber model is equal to, so this is going to be the app label of accounts, and account is the thing. And then they say that we need to have an email is it a property? Yeah, property. So it needs to have access to an email account, which is not bad because we already have a user that's associated with it. So I can definitely connect that there. So it's a kind of just an indirection layer, I guess. And as I'm staring at this, my obsessiveness for alphabetic stuff is taking over, so I'm resorting those. All right, and then we can, I think, pretty easily do this. We'll say get the email, get the account holder's email, and this property is needed by DJ Stripe. And we want to return self-user email. And we got to test that later, but no problem. What the heck? This is getting crazy. Okay, let's read this. If the model referenced here, okay, no problem, is not created in the first migration of an app. Do they mean initial? Surely they mean the initial. Okay, it is created in there. I don't know what first, under first means. That's like really bizarre to me. I'm going to assume that I'm doing this right. Okay, moving on. We've got this thing is using the native JSON field. The webhook URL, this is a fine pattern. So that's going to be thescholdesk.com, or excuse me, thescholdesk.app/stripe/webhook/. That's fine. Stripe webhook secret. If this is set to a non-empty value, webhook signatures will be verified. All right. Oh man, I think for like local testing, if I'm not setting real values in there, that I might need to like override this. How? Yeah, gosh. Okay, we'll keep going. So, and then how? Man, this keeps getting deeper. Of if I don't do any validation, for example, how do I set an environment variable to be from Django environment to be none? Can I do that? Cast. Oh, that's a cast. Maybe I can, I don't know, because it's going to come back as an empty string. So I'm going to have to do is if it's like equal to an empty string, then set it to none. Wow, that's goofy. Or did they say that they'll handle that as? The setting controls what type of validation is done. Verify signature, it's fine. Retrieve an event. So that's like a, we're going to send you something, but you can ask for it anyway to do an extra request. That's fine. Or none for no validation at all, which is sort of what I want with local testing. Maybe it doesn't matter right now though, because I don't know. Let's try. critical to your settings. Yeah, they're going to complain about this critical. We have to resolve that. Bummer. Okay. Well, we'll keep going. So that's Stripe, DJ Stripe webhook validation. So let's take this. Come on. There we go. And come over to this section, add a new one. And we're going to say environment, DJ Stripe webhook validation. That's what we want. We will do DJ Stripe webhook validation equal to a string, and we want the default to be this verify signature stuff. So set that. So that's good. Now I'm going to come back to my example file and say thanks Dota 2. Yeah, automated tests sometimes they're I think they're worth it overall, but they are sometimes tricky to get just right. Although right now I'm just trying to do migration, and this is just being pretty finicky. So let's do this. Let's say, like, I'm gonna see what happens if I leave it empty and see if the check complains or if it'll interpret. I'd like it to interpret empty as equivalent to none and like do no validation, but maybe it won't. So I'm gonna have to again take the secret mode here, but that's all only because I'm going into the actual env file and adding this in, but I'll turn that off in just a second. Okay, so I set that there. Now let's try running migrate and see if that error goes away. Dang it. Okay. Webhook is invalid. So you have to pass it none. How obnoxious. Okay. You just guessed the combination of my luggage password. Okay, let's come down here, and now we're going to come down to the webhook validation, and we're going to say, whoops, where was I? We're going to do this. So we're going to say, well, let's close this stupid migration because it's just taking up so much space. So we will let it use that value if it finds the value. Else it's going to be none. So that means that if the environment value is empty, like I just set it to, that if statement will fail, so it won't set it to the value, it will return it as none. Great, we got rid of that critical, and now we just have to fight with these keys. What is it saying now? Webhook validation is disabled. This is a security. Okay, come on, guys, you're killing me here. Not you all. You're all great. DJ Stripe is killing me with this stuff. I get it. Because I feel like I'm in a rock and a hard place. Because what if I set a value? All right, let's just assume that for a minute. Let's comment this out. So we're not actually doing that anymore. We should see that critical come up. So it's not giving the warning anymore, fine. But it's saying you have this verification set, but your value is not set. All right, what if I go in, I'm gonna, one more time, go into the, well, maybe not one more time, another time, go into the environment file, and I'm going to put a secret to everybody. The same thing that I put in the GitHub file. Okay. So we did that. What's that going to, is it going to try and verify that signature? In which, that would be like dumb. DJ stripe, DJ webhook secret is not set. Well, baloney, it was set, y'all. Shoot, did I put in the wrong one? I did. Oops. Secret. And you can't call me out on it because you can't see this area. I set it in the validation one. All right. And I was about to open that up with all my secrets for the whole world to see. Streaming sometimes, right? Yeah, I can use the or syntax. I happen to prefer the if-else style, but you're right. I could have used the or syntax. This is rich, right? Okay. So we've got the warning still. I might have to just muffle these warnings under certain circumstances. Or fails on number values. Right, yeah, the problem is I don't know what validation it's doing, so I don't know if it's like trying to, if it's going to validate, like you can see it's already kind of hinting that it looks like it wants to do a real validation. Does it look like a real secret? And I don't care at this stage, but when I'm doing local development, I just really don't care. So the question is like, which trade-off do I live with, or which warning do I muffle? Because it seemed like if I turn it off, it says, hey, warning, you've turned this off, you're in danger of doing this. It's like, well, okay, that's fine. I'm in development mode, I don't care. And then I give it a bad value and it says, hey, warning, you have given us a bad value. So I feel like I'm doomed either way. So I think I would rather, all right, I'm gonna rationally go, so here's my logic for why I'm going to do this way. I have set the DJ Stripe webhook validation up here, and I'm not going to set this on my production environment, which means it's going to come into verify signature. So that means the only time that DJ Stripe webhook validation is ever going to be a value that is not verify signature is if I actually set it, which comes down to this scenario that I just created, where I put it in my environment file and left it empty, which is kind of this else none block. So if I run this now, it should say, I got to delete the webhook secret. Of course I do. And I'll be right back. Let's get rid of this webhook secret thing. I think I've flipped this thing more times than I've ever flipped this on a stream. That's crazy. Okay, so that should kill off that first warning because I've got this disabled. Now we can go to, where are they? Do I still, I might have deleted it because I recently, here it is, silenced system checks. So now I want to conditionally add to silenced system checks if the validation is disabled. If it's none, good grief, this is terrible. Actually, let's do it down in the DJ Stripe settings. Let's keep it together. So we'll say, well, actually, we've already pulled it out of the environment at this point. So we'll say if DJ Stripe webhook validation is none. Then I'm going to go to the silenced system checks and append, what's the value? DJ stripe W004. Okay. Let's see. Did that do it? Did that get rid of the warning at least? Okay. I'm going to put in some fake keys and see if those complain. And then, yeah, I'm just trying to get rid of warnings at this point. So I don't know how much farther we're going to get on the stream. We're just kind of going through the mechanics of configuring this package, which is, it's useful for y'all to see if you're trying to do this yourself. But wow, talk about pain in the butt. So I'm going back into the file. I'm going to put a secret to everybody for both the live and test key. Now what's going to be irritating is if they come back and say, this doesn't look like a stripe key. Yep. Wow. They really really want my live key. Isn't crazy? I like the Stripe vanilla library. I've used it, but the downside of it is that, and the benefit that DJ Stripe I think is offering is this ability to like have your account data there and be able to operate with the ORM, and that's kind of hugely valuable, I think. Otherwise, you can do this, but you have to. Anytime I'd want to interact with customer data, I'd have to use something like requests to do, or use the Stripe library to ask for the data, which is going to be an API call, which is going to be slower. Because think about it, like what if I wanted to do this like right at that moment when a user is trying to change their account status? If the webhook is constantly syncing the data from Stripe and doing that successfully, then all of my data about the customer is already local in my database. And so I don't have to make API calls and deal with potential HTTP failures and all that other stuff. So this kind of trade-off is that I get the benefit of the ORM and local kind of access for the app, but clearly there's some challenges with it. So I'm going to try and add SK Live and see if that will be enough to make this happy. I'm really my first run experience with this. I'm guessing it's a good tool, but my first run experience has not been favorable so far. So I'm going to go to the live key, and I'm going to add SK Live in front of it. I'm going to run that again, and because I might have to modify this again, so I'm going to try running the command again. And what the heck? My up and down, there it goes. All right, well that apparently was enough to make this happy. So let me get off of my environment file and let you all see this again. So all I did was I went into my fake data and added SK Live to the front. And that was enough to get by the validation check. I don't know. It seems kind of weird to me, but that's the way it is. So I think that gets us that confirms that the migrations work. Yeah, layers of security. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we're talking about money, and like if somebody actually got my data, they could start. I don't know. I think they probably start charging, like doing chargebacks, or I have no idea what they could do to like transfer money out of my account. I'm not sure what kind of protections are on there. So I appreciate a level of security when it comes to money. I do think this warning system is tricky to navigate. This is way harder than I expected. I'm going to come into my example now, and I'm going to modify the examples to be kind of accurate to what I did. So we're going to say SK live a secret to everybody. This is what I typed in the other stuff that y'all couldn't see. And then a secret to everybody. And I think I deliberately left validation empty so that it would pick none. And I left the secret empty, although I don't think it would have mattered because the validation was being skipped. So, of course, if I actually wanted to test out webhooks, I could set values in here and test this out for real, and then configure something like ngrok to proxy my traffic and set Stripe to look at that ngrok URL as a webhook. There's probably ways to do that to test locally, but I don't actually want to do that. I'm not really interested in talking to Stripe right now anyway. Maybe there's a little come a time in the future, but that's not where I am today. I think this means I need to change my GitHub stuff. So let's go back to the GitHub test file, and we'll change the live key, and just so that I'll do some values that I know were correct, and we'll say sk live, and then we'll do just delete these other. I don't know that it matters. And I do want to have it was called validation, right? Yeah. I don't want to do the validation during CI, so I want to have that be empty, which should configure it in that other way and check the security. And then we can go down here. In fact, I think I can leave this empty. Well, I don't know. This stuff is tricky, it seems. All right. So what do we have from our diff? Let's round this out. We've got example settings that are added here. I turned live mode off in the example. We added some stuff to GitHub CI so that it should still continue to pass, I hope. I picked a new subscriber account, changed it from the user account, and added an email property. That's probably going to fail. Actually, that's a good point. So let's while we're reviewing the diff, let's let this run in the background now that it takes longer. This is not going to have coverage, I think, so we're going to have to test that. And then we are setting the validation to be verify signature, and setting the mode to be true for a production setting, and adding it. And then down here, we've gone through all of the settings and pulled them out of the environment, added where they're needed, created a different connection for the subscriber model, use JSON field. So there's a lot that we've gone over to try and get this configured, and then silenced a system check for the development stuff. And then the final bits were adding the URLs for the webhooks and then installing the package. I think that was it. Yeah. So one line is missing as I expected. Let's go write that one test. And I'll get to your question in just a second, Kodalite. That's a good question. So we're going to write the one test, and then we'll talk about notification systems a bit, and then we can wrap up for the evening. So the thing was in the account model. It was this email property. And so I'm going to open up the accounts test models file, and it has one test in it right now. So we'll say test email, and we'll say the account proxies the account holder's email address. And we'll do account is account factory, and then we'll say, we'll assert that the account email, that's the value that the actual value we're getting out of the property, and we're just happen to be testing it against the account user email. All right, so that test passes. So that should be the one bit of coverage that was missing. We'll run that again, and then we'll talk about your question. So your question is, how would you build a notification system for the school? So what kind of notification are you talking about? And I ask because I already have a notification system in the app, which we can look at. And then if you're thinking of other kinds of notifications, we can talk about those. So the notifications that I have in the app currently, and I can probably even bring up the application itself to take a look at them. Let's run everything locally. Go to the app and check out the admin. Oh, look at all this stuff. Cool. Wow. All of that DJ Stripe stuff is new. That's cool. But you can see I have a notifications app. And my notifications right now are meant to be product notifications. They're meant to inform users about changes I've made. And so the way I'm doing that currently is not a very fancy system. The concept is I create an announcement, and the announcement is a model that is a link to a blog post. Like you can see, this is all the announcement has in it. It's got a status that have I done it or not, and then a URL of where to go. And so those are the announcements. And then I have an action that tells me I can announce. And so the idea is when I create an announcement, because I've written a product blog post. Actually, let's make this as clear as we can. Let's go to the website, and there's a product blog that you can visit at schooldeskapp.blog, which I'll share over here if you want to follow along. And I've just written up some kind of simple posts. These aren't complicated. It just shows like, hey, I added documentation to help you out. They're really quick little things. And I can take one of these and take its URL, and I can put it as the announcement. This is where I want to send people to. And when I say announce, what it does is it creates a notification instance for every active user that I have. And I think we can see that in the actual notification side. So here are two different notifications that I've sent to myself when I was testing this out. And the layout is pretty simple, that it's got a foreign key to the actual announcement itself, it's got a foreign key to the user, and it's got a status of whether I've seen it or not. And in the app, I do a check in the bar at the top. If I come back to the application, and it's right next to, if there was an announcement, it's right next to this settings. In fact, I think let's change it really quickly. So we've got this one, we'll change it back to unread. All right. So now I've got an unread announcement, and I come over to the app and I'm on a different account maybe. No, this is the right account. Oh, because it's picking the latest one. So let's do the second one. I had that backwards. I'm picking the latest, so I have to make the latest one be unread. So if we come back to here, well, that's curious. Why did that not work? It should have shown a little icon here saying that I have something to read, but it did not. That's disturbing. Is that functionality not working anymore? That would be super. Let's go check it out. I think I might have broken something. So I have an unread notification. I order them by created and I get the last one. So here's the view that it is triggered. So if you can show a notification on that view, then you'd be able to click it and then it would redirect you to the blog post where you're supposed to read it, and this, in the redirection process, it would mark that you viewed that notification. So that's how I would do it, or how I do it. What is disturbing me is I clearly have marked both of these red and neither of them are appearing in this bar. There's like a little like what's new Christmas present kind of image that pops up that's not popping up. And I don't know why. So where is my notification? I think I even... It should be... Show what's new. Oh, maybe I have this turned off for this account. I probably did. I was testing that. Yeah, all right, here we go. Thankfully it's still working. Whew. So I'm going to turn this back on. Now, if we come back to the week view, well, what the heck? Something isn't right. What is up? I would like to receive announcements. So that's that profile setting. And I have show what's new. Show what's new. Just kind of on the week view, which is the view we were on. Oh, I don't have a school year. Oh, wow. I found a bug. That's interesting, I think. Yep. Ha! That's a bug. Well, fun. We found a bug. So this should be, this little last bit of context, the show what's new is what controls this. Let's move this up. It's not in the right spot. We can put this bug bounty. With all my mad profits that I'm making from this app, I'll share that bug bounty with you. Okay, so let's try again. Oh, what the heck? Come on, y'all. What's going on? This is the dashboard view, show what's new. That should appear, but it's not appearing. I'm on the real site. Dang it. Oh my word. It's too late at night, I can tell. Let's try this again, shall we? Hey, there it is. It is alive. This feature works. Oh my goodness. It's getting worried. I think we still found a bug. Like, that context would only happen here if it had gone in here. So this is still the right call. Thank you for helping surface that bug, Codalite. But here's what happens. I click what's new. I haven't clicked it yet. You can see from me hovering on it, it says notifications, what's new. So that will launch into this views file. It will launch this view. It will see, and this button only appears when I have an unread notification, which means that this thing is going to, when it gets clicked, is going to pull that unread notification. It's going to pull all of them out and then get the last one. So if you have, the reason I did the last one is like, if I wrote, let's say I wrote, 10 product blog posts and you haven't been on the site for 6 months, I don't want that what's new thing to be like up there over and over and over again, because I'm not going to do a little badge. I'm not going to be annoying about and give you a number of how many things you have to read. I just want it to be, okay, you wanted to see something that's new. Here's the thing that's new. I'm going to give you the last one, and then I'm going to clear all of them. So that's what happens in this last step, is it updates all of that to say all of them are viewed. And then it actually does the redirection to whatever the URL is. So I can click this. And so as a reminder, both of these are unread. And so it's probably going to go to this second one. I think that's going to be the latest. And that's going to be a broken URL because it's not anywhere. Or I guess it picked one, this other one. So that was a real post that I created just to write something here. And now if I refresh this admin page, both of these are marked as viewed. So that's my notification scheme for product announcements. I bet you could do something similar if you want to do other kinds of notifications, like whether your system is, well, is that true? It might be full crap here. This is a passive notification system, in that it's not until somebody goes to the site and sees the little what's new present picture and click it that something happens. I'm not actively sending people an email or sending out a text message or anything like that. I don't think that this kind of notification merits that. I could if I wanted to, but it's just not how I'm planning, not what I see this feature doing. That is interesting. You're like talking about, yeah, that could be possible. Like with, you'd have to do a bunch of time parsing, and yeah, that would be doable. I don't think, you have to remember, for my context, my homeschool stuff is students don't actually use the app. It's all for the parents. So it's really just for their planning purpose. But I could see an application that does that kind of stuff, that tells people about stuff and then comes back to them and says, hey, I'm keeping track of something. In that kind of context, that's more of an active system. And the way you'd have to handle that, I mean, there are a couple of techniques you could use. One that I would think would work, the cheapest one is kind of a polling option, where you have some sort of background worker process that is checking periodically. So if you did this kind of process, unless you were checking every minute, which I wouldn't recommend doing, that's a lot of wasted processing. But let's say you checked every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and there are tools that can do this. Like if you're using Celery for background working, for example, you can use Celery Beat to set it on a schedule. And so the schedule could just wake up every 10 minutes and say, do I have any notifications? Oh, I do. Okay, I'm going to send off my notifications. And maybe you did want to do an SMS system. So in that model, I would probably have let's say we're using Celery just to keep the kind of conversation easier. So Celery is a task management system, a background task. And so it has workers that it uses, and it has it also has a message bus. And that message bus is, you think of it as a queue, is really what it is. So you can use Redis, you can use RabbitMQ. There are a bunch of different transports, they call them, I think. And so the way Celery operates is you put something onto the queue, onto the message bus, and a worker will then pick up one of those items off the queue. It's just like putting in chunks of work to do. So Celery Beat is a process that you have to run continuously. And so So if you're trying to do research on this, I don't know if you're just interested or if you actually have a project in mind. But Celery Beat is a process that takes a schedule that you define in your project, and the schedule can accept specific times. Like if you have a specific time in the week, you say you want something to run every Monday morning at 6 in the morning, you can do that. It can also take repetition. So do this every 5 minutes, do this every 30 minutes, whatever. So Celery Beat would run. Oh, you have a project in mind, cool. And so this tool would run, and it would Celery Beat runs, and it's going to add a new task to the queue. It doesn't actually talk directly to do to have the worker do the work. It's always about putting tasks on the queue. There is also a separate worker process that is always looking for things to do. It's trying to find, like, what am I doing next? What am I doing next? So Celery Beat would add the task to the queue to say, hey, look for anything that has notifications. And then that worker is going to receive that task, and it's going to say, okay, I've been told to look for the notifications. And so in that worker task, you would have processing for notifications. Now, here's where you have choices. Let's imagine you're doing SMS notifications. You're trying to send this out to people. You could do like a task that I'm gonna like write some pseudocode. We'll do this. No, let's do a new file. Something, not Py. So we're in a new file, and your task is basically a function. So process notifications. I don't know. And it's not going to receive any parameters because it's being called from a schedule and doesn't really have anything to do. But it's going to look for notifications. So it might say notifications and then some kind of filter. And this, I'm just making this up right now. So this is like, these have not been modeled out. So I'm just going to do this very crudely and hopefully it gives you the idea. And the simplest version of this is to have all of the processing happen here. So you could say for notification in notifications, assuming they're in the right time range, send SMS, and maybe the notification has information about who to send that to. You could do this. This would work, kind of. What's wrong with this? Well, in this flow, this notification, I imagine sending SMS is going to require talking to some kind of API. You're talking over the network. So what happens if any of one of these breaks? If there's a failure, like the internet goes down and your code throws an exception. All right, well, now you've got to do try, and you could wrap it and do a try except on some kind of error, some sort of HTTP error. I don't know. Again, I'm making this up. But then what do you do in the exception clause? So hopefully you're getting the idea that this gets like tricky if you try and do all this in one go. So probably what I would do is, so if I had notifications that actually need to be sent out at that moment, because really, although I've said like all here, you'd really want to be filtering for like, it'd be something like, I don't know what the notification, the to send, like if it was a to send time, it was a timestamp, then you would do a filter that is like greater than or equal to now, where now is a date timestamp to then like to send less than anything like, let's just say 10 minutes into the future. So there'd be now plus time delta. Is minutes one of them? Or it's seconds, I think, is the time delta granularity you get. So you can do 10 times 60. I mean, you're getting the idea, hopefully. That like you get a set of notifications and then you do something about them and you're checking over and over again. And presumably in your system, in your project, somebody has a way to specify the time that they want to receive a notification. That's where these notifications are coming from. So your users are inputting the notifications on one side and your background processor is just kind of sitting and waiting to send them out on the other side. The downside of this flow, as I pointed out, though, is that if you have errors in this process for a single notification, this loop is going to have a problem. So what you might do instead is, instead of having this send it in this particular step, you might have a second task. So it says like, wow, that indented really funny. That says something like process notification. And it's going to say get the notification ID. So now this is another task, and in Celery this would be you'd use like a delay call. All right, and I'll explain this in a minute. And I apologize if you've never used Celery before. This might be a little overwhelming, but okay. So let's just clear up some error messages. So you can kind of chain tasks together or trigger new tasks. And in Celery, the call to trigger a new task is delay. So I'm assuming that there's a task named process notification, and the delay call would fire off a new one. And you'd give it the ID that you want the notification. So this task about this other one about processing it is not going to be asking the question, is it the right time to process? It's going to assume that this kind of supervisor process, this process notifications thing, is doing the right thing and telling it when it needs to send. So the process notification, that could be the thing that calls send SMS. And if you fail there, you don't fail all of the notifications, you just fail of that one. You could still, and you can add like retry logic. These task systems usually have some retry logic. So if your send SMS call did fail for that one particular task, you could have it retry a few seconds later and it might work the next time. So that's where you get a lot of that flexibility. Hopefully that gave you some inkling of a way you could do like an active notification system. That's not a feature that I need right now. Yeah, so would that run on a new thread? Yes, maybe, sort of. So it depends on how you configure Celery. Again, calling that delay call would, it's always going back to the message bus. These things are never coupled together directly. It's always indirect through the queue. So that, and I closed that file and I didn't save it, so I don't have it anymore, but that process notifications function that's calling delay, all it's saying is, I'm going to take this ID and create a new item for the queue to process in the future. So when the worker has the time, is free, it can then go get the next task and process that one. Now, the real scenario is that you often have multiple worker processes. In fact, Celery has some options that from the command line will let you fire up multiple workers to run in the same tree of processes. So there's like one master worker process that farms out to other workers and kind of round robins the queue. So Celery is just one technology. I know I've been commenting on Celery. I do want to throw out some other options. I do foresee a future where on this project I will find a use case where I need to have some kind of background processing. And the one that has been picking my interest is actually this one called Huey. It is, I think, less complex than Celery. Celery, for all of its features, has got a bit of a reputation for being difficult because Setting up the broker is challenging, and so on and so on. So you might want to check out Huey. It seems like a pretty strong offering. I presume that they have some kind of scheduling system, so I could actually be wrong. Let's see. Periodic tasks. Yeah, so there are ways to do periodic tasks and stuff. They're there. So here's an example. All right. So Huey might be easier to set up than Celery. Now again, confession, like I don't have experience with Huey. I've just read the documentation and been very impressed with it. I'm pretty sure that I've heard Dan Bader. I think Real Python uses Huey. I don't know if they still do, but I believe I heard a podcast where Dan was talking about this site, and I'm pretty sure he mentioned I'm pretty sure he mentioned Huey. So there's another option. So you can check out Celery, and if you like it, go for it. But if you're like overwhelmed by all of it, then you might want to check out Huey 2 as another version of this. And here's just an example of how this is working. So Huey can apparently work with SQLite. I would recommend probably, well, I don't know. You explore what you need. Redis is a popular choice. And this is a popular choice for Celery too. So it's usually some kind of like background task tool. And that would be like Celery or Huey. And there are others. And then you also need some kind of the message bus to go with it, which could be RabbitMQ or Redis. So those are choices that come across. So RabbitMQ, while being a really robust piece of software, is harder to set up. It has more requirements to it. It's actually written in Erlang, so it's just different. So it's just something to be aware of. And you can see this example here. You can kind of extrapolate to, okay, here's how a task would run. I could do it in a for loop, and there's probably other stuff you could read to. Looks like the schedule is Huey's equivalent to the delay call or something. I don't know. So go read up on that. That might be useful. I think that's probably where I need to end things for the evening. We got through setting up DJ Stripe as much as I could reasonably figure it out. We got through a lot of the errors and the configuration, and then we talked about pyupgrade way back at the beginning. So that was to modernize your Python to the latest version. So hopefully y'all picked up on some stuff this evening and enjoyed this last little bit of this random conversation. Thank you for joining in, and have a great night. Take care.